You open the app on an ordinary Tuesday, half paying attention, and the number finally reads six figures, $100,000. The number you've been grinding toward for years, that never seemed to move no matter how much you fed it. And now it's just sitting there, and your first feeling isn't triumph. It's a strange, quiet urge to do something with it. That urge is the most dangerous moment in your entire financial life. And almost nobody warns you about it, not because the market's about to crash, because right here, at exactly this number, most people make one of three reasonable-sounding decisions that quietly wreck the whole thing, and they never even feel it happen. I've watched people spend 19 years clawing their way to six figures and then undo it in a single good afternoon. So today I want to walk you through what actually happens the moment you hit 100 grand, including the part every finance channel gets flat wrong about that number, and how to not be the person who sprints backward from the finish line they just crossed. Let me start with the quote you've heard 100 times, because there's a lie hiding inside how everyone uses it. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's late partner, was once asked by a young man how to build wealth, and Munger, never one to soften anything, told him the first 100,000 was, in his words, a bitch, but you gotta do it. Walk everywhere, eat nothing that wasn't bought with a coupon. Do whatever it takes to get your hands on that first 100 grand. And after that, he said, you can ease off the gas, because the snowball starts rolling on its own. Great advice. Here's the part the finance internet leaves out. Munger said that at a shareholder meeting back around 1999, run his $100,000 through inflation, and it comes out to roughly $200,000 in today's money. So every channel out there chanting your first 100K is the magic number is worshiping a figure that quietly doubled while they weren't looking. The milestone didn't get easier over the decades, it got harder. The goalpost moved, and most people are still lining up their kick at where it used to be. Now, I'm not telling you 100,000 is meaningless. It absolutely is a real threshold, and I'll show you exactly why in a second. But if you're treating that specific number as the moment you've made it, understand you're aiming at a target that's been sliding away from you for 25 years. The principle Munger described is bulletproof. The dollar figure on it is a relic, and I understand why the number refuses to die. It's clean, it's round, it fits on a thumbnail, and it lets you believe there's a single door you walk through where everything changes. A moving, inflation-adjusted target that's different for every person in every year makes for terrible content and a worse rallying cry. So the myth survives because it sells, not because it's accurate. And the people chanting it loudest are usually the ones who never checked the date on the quote they're quoting. So why does crossing into six figures actually matter if the exact number is soft? Because of what happens to the money once it's that big at $100,000. A normal market return of around 8% throws off $8,000 in a single year. That's roughly $660 a month, appearing out of nowhere while you sleep, while you're at work, while you're doing absolutely nothing for the first time in your life. Your money is out earning a part-time job you never have to show up for. Think about what that does to the whole machine. Under 100,000, you are the engine. Your savings rate does nearly all the lifting, and progress feels slow because it is slow. Nothing much is helping you yet. Somewhere around six figures, a second engine quietly switches on. The growth of the pile starts pulling weight your paycheck used to carry alone. That's the snowball. And this is the exact moment your money changes jobs. It stops being a thing you push uphill and starts being a thing that rolls on its own, if you let it. And the autopilot math is genuinely startling once you lay it out. At 8%, money roughly doubles every 9 years without you lifting a finger. So 100,000 becomes 200 in 9 years, 400 in 18, 800 in 27, and you never add another dime to it. Cross six figures by 35, touch nothing, and it's past $1 million by the time you're 65, all on its own. Now switch the other engine back on. Keep feeding it just $500 a month on top of that growth, and the same 30 years doesn't finish near $1 million. It finishes closer to 1.8. That gap between leaving it alone and quietly still feeding it is the entire case against ever fully easing off. But let me keep myself honest here, because I'm not going to sell you the fantasy version. That 8% is a long-run average, not a smooth yearly gift. Some years the market falls and your six figures briefly becomes 5, and you have to be able to sit through that without flinching. And that comforting, your 100K becomes $1 million in 30 years line you'll hear. True on paper, but $1 million 3 decades from now buys what about 400,000 buys today. So this is real, and it's powerful, and it is not a lottery ticket. Keep both of those in your head at once. Here's what makes this milestone so treacherous. The moment you hit it, 3 temptations show up at your door, and every one of them is dressed as a smart, responsible decision. I've watched all 3 play out. Let me show you them, because you'll recognize the pull of at least one. The first is the reward. You've sacrificed for years, and now there's finally a real number in the account, and some quiet voice says you've earned a little something. Not a blowout, nothing reckless, a nicer car, because yours is getting old. A better apartment, because you deserve the view. Each upgrade is completely defensible on its own. The trouble is they don't come one at a time. They come as a slow drip of small yeses that each feel like nothing. Add up a typical version of it. The car payment, the rent bump, the creeping subscriptions and dinners, and you're looking at maybe $1,100 a month more going out the door. That's a little over $13,000 a year, and that $13,000 was your snowball's fuel. Invested instead for a couple of decades, it's north of $500,000. The person who does this doesn't lose their $100,000. They lose the fortune it was supposed to become, and they never see the corpse, because it was never a dramatic death. It was 100 small comforts they stopped noticing within a month. The second temptation is the opposite, and it hits the confident ones. You did everything right for years, boring index funds, patient buying. And now that boring plan has produced 6 figures, and suddenly boring feels beneath you. You're clearly smart. Smart people don't just sit in a plain fund making 8% while there's real action out there, so you carve off a chunk, say 40,000, and move it into hot individual stocks, or options you only half understand, chasing something faster. And sometimes, at first it works, which is the cruelest thing that can happen to you, because now you feel like a genius. Then the market turns, the way it always eventually does, and the same leverage that multiplied the gains multiplies the losses just as hard, and that 40,000 is suddenly 19. The real damage isn't even the dollars. It's that you traded a near sure thing, a broad fund that history says climbs over time, for a maybe, and the maybe ate your foundation. This isn't stupidity, by the way. It's boredom. It's a hard worker who mistook patience for laziness. The third one looks nothing like the first 2, and it still costs you. This is the person the number scares more than it thrills. They finally have something real to lose, so they do the thing that feels safest of all. They leave the whole 100,000 sitting in cash, in a savings account, waiting for a crash to buy the dip. No risk, no scary red numbers, nothing to lose. Except there's a thief in that account, and its name is inflation. At around 3% a year, that 100,000 quietly loses about $3,000 of buying power annually. The balance on the screen never drops, so it feels safe. But what the money can actually buy shrinks a little every single year. Leave it there a decade instead of investing it, and the gap between where you are and where you'd have been runs well past $100,000. They were so afraid of a crash that might knock off 20%, that they signed up for a slow leak that never stops. For long-term money, cash isn't the safe choice. It's the quietly guaranteed loss. Now, here's the thread that ties those three people together. And it's the single most useful idea in this whole video. The skill that got you to 100,000 is the opposite of the skill that grows it. Getting there rewards hustle. Grinding, saving, cutting, pushing, pure effort. Applied relentlessly for years, but past 6 figures, the pile itself starts adding more each year than you comfortably can by hand, and the game silently flips. Growing your money from here rewards patience, stillness, doing nothing on purpose for a very long time. And those are opposite muscles. That's the whole reason so many hardworking people wreck their 6 figures. They arrive with one muscle trained to exhaustion and no idea it's now the wrong one. So they keep using it. They spend to feel the progress they're used to feeling. They gamble to feel the speed. They shuffle money around to feel in control. All three are the same mistake wearing different clothes. A person who got here by doing, who can't stand to now simply sit. Write this down somewhere, because it's the line worth keeping for the rest of your investing life. The first 100,000 is the last time your effort matters more than your patience. After that, the winners aren't the smartest or the busiest people in the room. They're the stillest. Most people expect hitting 6 figures to feel like fireworks. It usually doesn't. It feels strangely flat. A number on a screen on a quiet Tuesday, maybe even a little hollow. And then, almost immediately, a restlessness creeps in. That anticlimax isn't a personality flaw. It's a clue about what's actually happening in your head. For years, the number pulled you forward. 100,000 was the goal. And a goal quietly does a job you never notice until it's gone. It gives your discipline something to point at, a reason to say no to the takeout and the impulse buy. Then you touch it, and the goal vanishes. And a brain with no goal doesn't sit there in peaceful contentment. It goes hunting for something to fill the hole. For one person, the easiest filler is a reward, so they spend. For another, it's the hit of progress they suddenly can't feel anymore, so they gamble. For another, it's the fresh terror of having something real to lose, so they freeze. Spend, gamble, freeze. 3 different reactions to one identical problem, which is a target that suddenly disappeared. So the antidote is almost stupidly simple, and it's the highest leverage move you can make the very night you cross the line. Set the next number before you finish celebrating this one. Say it out loud. 250,000, 500,000, 1,000,000. A named next goal keeps the snowball on the hill, because it gives your discipline somewhere to keep pointing instead of a vacuum to fall into. Fine, Gray. So what's the move? It's almost insultingly boring, which is exactly why it works. But there's real order to it. So let me give you the actual playbook. Not just stay calm. Start by doing nothing for 30 days, no celebration purchase, not one, in the first month. The urge to reward yourself is at its absolute loudest right now, and it fades if you just refuse to feed it. Let it pass before you decide anything. Then check that the money is actually invested and not sitting idle. You'd be amazed how many people invest and leave the cash sitting uninvested in the account, doing nothing. After that, get the money into the right kind of home, because this is where quiet fortunes are made and lost. Gains inside a normal brokerage account get taxed every year, which drags on your compounding. Gains inside a 401k, a Roth IRA, or an HSA don't. Those aren't dull acronyms. They're compounding shelters, and the Roth is the sharpest of them. You pay the tax once, now, and then never again on decades of growth. Fill those tax-advantaged accounts first, and only let the overflow spill into a taxable one. That single ordering decision, made right, can be worth hundreds of thousands over a working life. 2 more that matter more than people think. Guard your fees like your life depends on it, because a fee that sounds trivial isn't. 1% a year, over 30 years, quietly eats about a quarter of your entire ending balance. Choose cheap, broad index funds, and you hand that quarter back to yourself and protect your time above almost everything. Because the cruelest math in finance is that the early years are worth the most. A dollar invested at 30 does the work of nearly $4 invested at 50. Every time you sell to chase something shinier, you reset the clock the snowball needs. And that clock is the one thing you can never buy back. And then, this is the Munger trap almost everyone falls into. Do not ease off entirely. He said you can ease off the gas a little once the snowball's rolling, and people hear you can stop. Automate a contribution, however modest. So the decision to keep feeding it is made once instead of fought every month. The snowball rolls on its own now. Sure, it still rolls faster if you keep packing snow onto it, and if there's a voice telling you to wait because the market feels too high right now to add more. Understand that it has felt too high at nearly every point along its long climb upward. The people who sat in cash waiting for the obvious dip have mostly missed years of gains chasing a discount that never showed up on schedule. That's the real reason to automate the deposit. An automatic transfer buys through the scary highs and the even scarier lows without stopping to ask your nervous system for a vote. You never try to time it. You just never stop. Two things ambush people right at this milestone. So let me hit them fast. Debt. You hit 6 figures invested, but you're still carrying a car loan, maybe student debt, and the instinct is to feel rich and ignore it. That instinct is expensive. The clean rule. Compare the interest rate on the debt to what you'd expect to earn investing. Paying off a credit card charging you 20% is a guaranteed, tax-free, risk-free 20% return. No fund on earth reliably beats that. So hunt those balances down and kill them first. But a low-rate mortgage or car loan is a different animal. If your investments are likely to out-earn it, the math actually says keep the loan and keep investing alongside it. Kill the expensive debt. Keep the cheap debt. Never stop feeding the snowball. Get that order backwards, and you can spend years paying interest while feeling responsible the whole time. And the emergency. At some point, a roof leaks, a car dies, or a job disappears. And suddenly your invested pile looks like a rescue fund. This is the exact moment people rip a hole in the snowball. They sell investments in a panic, usually at a bad price, and reset years of growth overnight. That's what the cash cushion is actually for. 3 to 6 months of expenses in plain, boring cash isn't a wasted opportunity. It's the shield that lets the emergency hit the cushion instead of the snowball. The person who's scared of cash and the person who hides in cash are both wrong. The answer is enough cash to survive a storm, and everything else planted to grow through it. Now, somewhere in all this you might be bristling, hearing a sentence to hoard every dollar and eat rice out of a coupon jar for the next 40 years. Good. Push back on that, because it's wrong. And the truth is a lot more freeing than the caricature. Protecting your snowball costs you almost nothing you'd genuinely miss. Go back to that first temptation, the $1,100 a month of upgrades that quietly torched a future fortune. The person who spent it wasn't happier for it. The research on this is brutally consistent. The thrill of a lifestyle upgrade fades fast, and the nicer car and the better view quietly become the new baseline you stop even noticing within weeks. So the answer was never deprivation. It's spending hard and on purpose on the 2 or 3 things you actually love, and cutting without mercy on the dozen you won't remember by next year. Keep the joy that's real to you. Kill the spending that's just noise you never enjoyed anyway. And invest the enormous gap in between. That isn't a smaller life. Done right, it's a much bigger one. Let me zoom out, because you may not realize what you've done. According to the most recent Federal Reserve data, the median American under 35 has a net worth around $39,000. And here's the part that reframes it. For the typical household, most of whatever net worth they have is tied up in home equity. Strip the house out, and the median net worth of all Americans drops to under $60,000. So $100,000 sitting in actual, liquid, investable assets doesn't just put you ahead of your peers, it puts you in genuinely thin air. You did something most people never manage, to put a real number on it. $100,000 in investable assets lands a person under 35 comfortably inside the top slice of their age group, ahead of roughly 9 out of 10 of the people they went to school with. That's not a participation trophy. That's years of quietly saying no while everyone around you said yes, compounded into a real head start. Feel the pride of that for a second, because you earned it honestly, and then feel the weight of it, because a head start is only worth something if you don't turn around and hand it back. But that rarity is exactly why the next move is everything. The people who claw their way to six figures and then slide back down almost never fall because of a crash. They step off the ledge themselves. The reward, the bet, the freeze, which is oddly the best news in this entire video, because it means the single biggest factor in what happens to your money from here isn't the market, the economy, or the headlines. It's whether you can stay in your seat. You can't control what stocks do next year. You have total control over whether you stay planted, and staying planted through the boredom and the noise and the itch to do something is the whole discipline of getting wealthy. So the next time that number clicks over into six figures, I want you to see it for what it actually is. It's not a finish line. It's not a permission slip to spend or gamble or hide. It's the moment your money quietly grows up and starts carrying the weight you've been carrying alone for years. Your effort got you here, and your effort was magnificent, and your effort is now the least important thing you bring to the table. From this point, the job is different, and it's harder, precisely because it looks like doing nothing. Name your next number so your discipline has somewhere to point. Automate the boring monthly deposit. Keep your fees low and your hands off, and then let the hardest 100,000 you ever earned finally do the one thing it's been waiting to do. Roll on its own, downhill for the rest of your life, as long as you're wise enough to just stand back and let it. I'm Gray. Money decisions made clear. I'll see you in the next one.